Chapter 18. My Word is Out. Summary. Lincoln's dismissal of McClellan did not immediately translate into a sudden turnaround in Northern forces. The Union lost significant battles at Chancellorsville and Second Bull Run. Indeed, desperation caused Lincoln to return to McClellan. Coincidentally or not, the Union saw a small victory at Antietam. Lincoln capitalized on this victory to share the Emancipation Proclamation. Key takeaway. Lincoln knew that the Emancipation Proclamation would be controversial. He chose to lead into emancipation by publicly stating that he neither sought to end or embrace slavery. He simply wished to save the Union. This angered many abolitionists who were unaware of the emancipation to come. Chapter 19. Fire in the Rear. Winter-Spring 1863. The President vowed to issue the Emancipation Proclamation on New Year's. Many naysayers thought that Lincoln's promise was empty rhetoric meant to placate abolitionists in the face of a difficult war. Prior to the proclamation, several members of Lincoln's cabinet had given input that he largely agreed upon and had added to the final draft. Notably, Stanton and Chase urged Lincoln to include the proviso that freed blacks be entered into the armed forces. The proclamation was officially signed at about 10 p.m., forever changing the way the national government viewed slavery. The Emancipation Proclamation was celebrated by many, though there were those who worried that there was a political downside. However, any political backlash was secondary to the terrible loss at the Battle of Chancellorsville. The Union had hoped this would be a swift victory. The Army of the Potomac, led by Major General Joseph Hooker, was twice the size of General Stonewall Jackson's Confederate Army of Northern Virginia. Still, Jackson's troops managed to best the Union. 17,000 Union soldiers were killed. However, the Confederacy also saw major losses. They lost 13,000 men and suffered another 13,000 casualties, and friendly fire led to the death of Jackson. Key takeaway. The Emancipation Proclamation was not solely Lincoln's work, but was crafted with skillful thought and with the input of many of Lincoln's closest allies. Chapter 20. The Tycoon is in fine whack. Summer, 1863. Summary. Lincoln visited General Hooker on May 7th, giving him the encouragement to head into another campaign. When he returned to Washington, he found that Clement Vallandigham, a congressman from Ohio, had been arrested and charged with treason. Vallandigham had loudly and publicly decried the war, which caused General Ambrose Burnside to arrest the man. When the Chicago Times spoke out against the war, Burnside forced the paper to close. Lincoln was in a quandary. He did not want to speak out against the general, but he also knew the political fallout of such an act could be enormous. In what was now a typical fashion, Lincoln found a moderate approach. He commuted the sentence so that Vallandigham was banished to Tennessee while publicly backing his general. The ban on the Chicago Times was also lifted. Lincoln did his best to settle the affair by having a letter published in the New York Times. The letter stated that military arrests were not allowed during ordinary times, but that these extraordinary circumstances called for extreme measures. Lincoln likened Vallandigham's language to desertion. Being the man who may cause soldiers to desert, an offense that was punishable by death, could be considered as grievous of a crime as any. The letter was widely praised. It may have been responsible for shifting public sentiment about Lincoln specifically and the war in general. However, not long after the publication of this letter, two key victories solidified the North's ability to come from behind to win the war. The Battle of Gettysburg was considered a turning point due to the massive number of rebel casualties. The same day that Gettysburg was declared victorious for the Union, July 4th, General Grant led his own troops to victory at Vicksburg. Key takeaways. Military force upon civilians was an unpopular but sometimes necessary part of the war. Victories at Gettysburg and Vicksburg marked the true turning point in America's Civil War.